Hello, everyone, and welcome live to 3Wide TV. Tonight's broadcast of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here on 3Wide TV. It is race number 4 of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series chase here from the beautiful Chicagoland Speedway for tonight's running of the Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Sports Bar 134 laps, 200 miles on store for myself and Andre Graham Bush here tonight. And Andre, great to be in Chicagoland. I love this racetrack, and it always puts on a good show.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the nice things about these simulators is even if a track is taken off the schedule in real life, we can still go to them and still enjoy them as they were. And this is a track that I always enjoyed. Even, I think people look at this track and they really only remember the Kyle Busch versus Kyle Larson battle. But this track's had a lot of interesting moments, including but not limited to a giant inflatable orange rolling down the back straightaway at one point. So it's a fun track. It puts on a lot of good battles, very unique as far as these 1.5s go with its curved back straightaway. And I look forward to this race.
Yeah, I always look forward to this race as well. Tristan Maher, on the other hand, not looking forward to the inside wall. But we got drivers out there on the racetrack. The reason we were highlighting the number 17 of Tristan Maher is he is one of those drivers with a shot at the series title. That's right, one of our contenders here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series chase. As the racetrack now goes silent except for the stricken truck of the 17 of Maher. But let's go look at the point standings entering into tonight's event. Oh, wow. We left a graphic on for way too long as we go over into the qualifying session. The point standings that we have here tonight is I'm a little bit rusty. It's my first time broadcasting in like 2 weeks, so bear with me as I shake off the rust here tonight. But after last week's race at Bristol Motor Speedway, Tristan Maher in the number 17, 21-point lead over Philip Scott. Adam Newton sitting third in points. Justin White, fourth position. Our top four separated by just 42 points. Then you have Nathan Maurer, Julian Tesoro, both of those drivers sitting 49 points behind Tristan Maher. 21 points is a pretty good margin up at the top for the number 17 here, Andre. But we still have 4 races left after tonight's event, so still plenty of time for the rest of the field to make up ground.
Oh, yeah. Anything could happen in 4 races if our current points leaders are going to have a few misfortunate races and other drivers kind of capitalize on that. You never really know, but if you are one of these guys a little bit further up the grid in points, you're probably feeling pretty comfortable regardless. You got that cushion kind of building as they've been doing really good, and they probably take a little bit of solace in the fact that we got a bit of a small field tonight, so even if they do have a bad race, there's not a whole lot of points to change hands, which means they can kind of rest easy and have a lot of fun with this race, which I think is going to kind of maybe embolden them to race a little bit harder when they know, well, if there's 13 trucks in this race, I can only finish just outside the top 10 at the absolute worst. So it'll be fun, but we've got 4 drivers that have posted times. Looks like Doug Neal is top of the board so far, just a tenth of a second ahead of Vinny Valvano in the 64. Adam Newton, P3, 2 tenths of a second back. 4 tenths back to Philip Scott in that 99 World Ninja League truck. Tristan Maher jumping up to second on the board. He's only 0.04 of a second back from our current leader. And new pole sitter, Adam Newton on lap 2 is going to improve. And man, oh man, Philip Scott also improves. Look at that, Peter. We got a tie for second, 100th back from our pole sitter.
Yeah, Philip Scott, Tom Lester currently making up second and third spots, but that number 29 of Adam Newton with the microgramma there font on the side of that 29 machine, currently fastest of all. Here is the number 48 of Lester trying to get some extra laps in his Mountain Dew color chrome machine. Love the looks of that race truck that you see right there. Nate Maurer out there on the racetrack, 971 Chevrolet. You always have to keep your eyes on this driver who's been really hot in the Thursday night series here in the National Sim Racing Association. He goes to the line here as we will see what he can do here before the end of the session. There we go. Bring up the clock counter. Still about 7 minutes left on the counter here in qualifying for the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Sports Bar 200. That 971 maybe sliding a little bit down there on the bottom side of the racetrack. Those Tires just didn't exactly look as hooked up as they could have been, but he was hustling it around the racetrack and currently sitting down in 6th, but only 0.08 of a second behind Adam Newton, trying to pick it up on lap number 2. What do you think he can do here, Andre?
But we're gonna see if he can improve here. But it's so tough. I mean, you look at the gap between these guys; they're so close, and that kind of tells me that they are pretty much at the limit. They're going as fast as that truck is going to let them, and really the only difference is just little minute differences in input, how much speed they carry out of the corner. And here he goes up to 2nd on the board, 0.00. It is a dead heat for the pole. Adam Newton's going to keep the row 1 inside starting position, but he doesn't get any closer than that.
No, it does not get any closer than that. That number 29, just a couple thousandths of a second faster. Here is the number 97, Mike Floppy Teller. He was well off on lap number 1. I think he was running the high line of the racetrack. We'll see if he can pick it up on lap number 2 in his Toyota Tundra. Hello Kitty on the side of that number 97. Now working his way through turn number 3 and 4. Come to the line flat out here. Gonna go below that white line. Try and shorten up the racetrack as much as he can. What can Tellier do? What type of lap time does he do? And he jumps to top of the board. How about that? The Canadian driver out of Sarnia, Ontario goes top of the board. 30.88 by 100th of a second. Wow, Andre, leaving it late here. We only have 12 cars in the field, but Mike Floppy Tellier leaving it a little bit later than everyone else to jump up to the top.
I like that too. He used the super speedway tactic. You kind of use the first lap as a bit of a throwaway so that you can run that high line, make the lap as long in distance as possible so that your engine can wind up and really build up a ton of speed. Then on that second lap, once you've built up that momentum, you dive it down to the bottom, you hug as close to the apron and as close to the grass as you can get. That is exactly what Mike did right there, and it paid off just barely. As the number 2, Justin White, he's going to go out and make his qualifying effort. Speaking of cutting it late here, only 4.5 minutes left, and he is just rolling out of pit road. So he'll have time to get his laps in, no doubt. But, man, it's going to be tough. Look, I just can't get over that scoring pylon, Peter. 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.2, 0.2, 0.6, 0.8. That is just absurd. I don't think I've seen 7 cars that close in qualifying all season long.
Yeah, these drivers basically treating this racetrack like a super speedway, at least for qualifying. As Justin White there may have just clipped the apron. I think that will put a little bit of a kink in his qualifying lap time here. We'll see what he can do. He's also left it late. Just going to be the 9th truck to take time here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Coming to the line to complete lap number 1. But looking at the chat, we got a couple of names in the chat here tonight so far. Johnny Williams jumping in, saying good luck all, and hello to the booth, Johnny. Hope all is well with you and your family. Ryder Lee Angle as well, saying let's go number 99. Philip Scott, always rooting on Philip in the World Ninja League machine. Good to see you, Ryder. Thanks for dropping by the 3 wide TV chat as well. But was not a good lap on lap number 1 for Justin White. He was 0.3 of a second off of Tellier's pole time. So far, what can he do on lap number 2? He will jump himself up into 6, 0.04 of a second slower, so a pretty big improvement out of the Grinds Coffee Pouches Chevrolet, but not enough as the clock on the scoring pylon ticks down to just 3 minutes left here, but only a handful of drivers, not less than a handful of drivers, just 2 drivers, John Flamian and Jason Shue, have yet to make their time. Looks like the number 3 of Shue will be working his way out onto the speedway right now, kind of almost doing things like old school NASCAR style there, Andre, where one car completes its qualifying lap time, next one spools up out there onto the racetrack, and it is the number 3 right now, Jason Shue, that will bring the 3 wide TV spotlight here as he heads down the backstretch on his warm-up lap.
And he should have just enough time to post his lap and see exactly where he falls. Again, I think this field being a little bit smaller than normal is giving these guys a chance to relax a little bit. They don't really have to worry too much about where they qualify because, hey, worst of the worst is going to be row 6, which is still pretty close to the front. And with how competitive they all are and how close they all are, I don't think anybody's getting discouraged about the speed they have. It's going to be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing all 12 of these drivers in a pack. Obviously, like you mentioned, we're kind of doing things old school here unintentionally, one car at a time. But in a pack, I really think the draft is going to be super important here, because with these trucks and the way this track drives, especially at night when that asphalt is cool and got a lot of grip, they're not going to start lifting until they're like halfway through a tire run. So going to be a lot of slipstream, a lot of finesse trying to work your truck into slots that maybe it doesn't necessarily fit in, but we'll have to wait and see. His shoe is going to be 5/10 off on lap 1, but that's kind of the story for the night. The first lap is always a little bit slower, and then the second one is generally a pretty big improvement. So here he comes out of turn 4 for his final lap, 1 minute to go in qual. Where is he going to fall? It is going to be a minor improvement, 0.53 seconds back, so P10 for Shoe.
Yeah, currently the slowest of the drivers to take time. John Flemion, the 11th driver, looks like he's not going to work his way out there onto the racetrack, at least for now. Scott Tompkins, the outer race official, of course, will not be posting a time here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series qualifying session. But hey, let's see if we can get a quick word with the driver from Sarnia, Ontario, who looks like will be starting off tonight's race on the pole. Mike Floppy Tellier, Peter Short, 3Y TV booth. Got a copy?
I do.
Well, a really good lap time out of that number 97, but 200 miles between you and the checkered flag. What's it going to take to get it done tonight?
Tire conservation. I think last time I heard something being mentioned about a tortoise and a hare, and me being the hare and Tristan being the tortoise. I don't know how that conversation or story went, but hopefully this time I don't burn out my tires so quickly.
Well, it's interesting to hear that you mention tire conservation, because it didn't look like there was a lot of tire conservation going on there in qualifying. Looked like pretty much flat out for the entire field. Looks like it kind of raced a little bit like a super speedway there, but you think that's going to bleed off here pretty quick?
Yeah. I don't think we have very many tires, and it's going to be a long race. So I don't know. There could be strategy coming into play. Hint, hint, nudge, judge.
All right. Well, Mike, thanks for joining us up here in the 3Y TV booth. Good luck here as you'll be getting that green flag here shortly.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, we'll let Tim get back to it. Let's see if we can bring up, though, tonight's starting lineup here. Why don't you take it away, Andre, with tonight's starting lineup?
Absolutely. Of course, sitting on pole tonight, the man we just had a word with, Mike Tellier, with a 30.881, and then only 100th of a second off of him is going to be Adam Newton in the number 29. We heard a little bit about tire conservation, and that seemed to be Adam Newton's forte last week, so keep an eye on that number 29. Row 2 is going to be Nate Maurer and Philip Scott, two drivers who have been pretty competitive all season long, and they're going to be starting real close to the front. Tom Lester, Justin White, going to be 5th and 6th in row 3. Tristan Maher, Doug Neal, 7 and 8. Vinny Valvano, Jason Shue, 9 and 10. And John Flamian, who did not post a lap, should be running on our field if he makes it to the grid, although I don't see him yet. We'll keep you updated on that situation. That is going to be your starting grid for the night. And unless Flamian grids up, we're going to have 5 rows even. And oh, he is there. Okay, we see him. He's back there. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit blind. I apparently need to put my glasses on. He was right there in the bright green car. I don't think I could have missed a brighter car there, Peter.
Yeah, I got Alienware and NVIDIA on that number 22 machine. Of course, NVIDIA have had, well, let's just say not the best press about the release of the 4000 series graphics cards. If you're a sim racer like myself, one of your key investments over the years are new graphics cards, as things tend to update. But man, this 4000 series that NVIDIA will be launching here by the end of 2022, just not getting the greatest press right now, very expensive, and so on and so forth. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Who knows, maybe we'll get one here on the 3Y TV production truck. But only time will tell. But only time will tell tonight's winner as well. Tellier and the number 29 of Adam Newton on the front row. I mean, I think we got some really good trucks right up at the head end of the field here. And then, of course, you got your points leader starting on the inside of row number 4. It'll be exciting to see what Tristan Maher can do. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what these drivers have in store for us here tonight. Look on the right-hand side of your screen is the weather. Track temperature currently 75 degrees Fahrenheit. That's going to give these drivers plenty of grip. Wind speed is low, so that always helps the stability of these race trucks, and moderate humidity here in the Windy City. And not very windy in the Windy City. How about that? Definitely a little bit surprising as the wind gusts up to 6 miles an hour there. But pace car should be heading down, well, late turn down pit road for the pace car. We're about to go green flag in the Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Bar 200, and Mike Floppy Tellier gets us underway here, Andre.
And he is going to get out to a pretty sizable lead, but Nate Maurer staying on the bumper. He actually got a really good start, able to jump up right to the back, and behind him we got issues already. The 48 is spinning. Some contact from the 17. Now, the 48 was spinning prior to that contact. I think the 17 just couldn't really slow down. He had trucks behind him, and the 48 immediately bringing out caution number 1. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, well, we'll go back and just completely rewind to the drop of the green flag here. Keep your eyes on the Mountain Dew, the color chrome machine right there, the number 48, that Chevy Silverado goes off towards turn number 1. All is good so far. Got the number 29 to his outside, right down there on the inside line. Hit a couple of bumps, and clipped that apron a little bit, Andre, and I think that just unnerved him. Yeah, a touch from our points leader, the 17 of Maher, a second touch there. Hopefully Maher's truck isn't too badly damaged. Looks like Lester able to get away with not a significant amount of damage, but we'll get another look at that one here on the 3-wide TV replay as we go on board with the number 48 here. But just, Andre, just keep an eye on him clipping that apron. I think he just caught that apron just a little bit mid-corner, and I think that really unnerved the truck.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And when you combine clipping the apron with these cold tires, I mean, they hadn't been going but for 300 feet maybe, that's going to get you sideways. You can see right there, he actually clips it once, which gets him loose, back down into it a second time. And just the speed that he lost from getting loose was enough to get the 17 closing in on him and really nowhere for him to go. So definitely a bit of a blunder there. We have a bit of a saying, cold tires are cold. And those tires most certainly were cold.
Yeah, the number 48 is coming down onto pit road here in his pit box. Going to get some of that damage repaired. Do want to also mention that I guess one of the things that Mike Floppy Tellier mentioned is maybe strategy could come into play, especially if this race goes caution-free. Well, we did have a good number of takers on pit road under caution flag number 1. The number 17, Tristan Maher, also taking on repairs in the Eclipse Photography Ford F-150. We'll see exactly how long that takes for his crew to get him back headed out there onto the racetrack, because at least right now, Mike Floppy Tellier heading his way in through turns number 3 and 4. Maher's unlucky here. He could fall a lap down in a hurry. Pace car lights continue to twinkle here. Just bouncing over to the 3-wide TV chat, we have Jimbo in the chat, and Stay Tuned Sports becoming a pit crew member for 9 months. Jimbo, thank you very much. Hope all is well with you back at home. And, of course, if you want to listen to the Stay Tuned Sports podcast, sure enough, you can. Just go down to the description of the video here tonight. There's a link to the Podbean. All you have to do is click on that, and you can listen to the most recent Stay Tuned Sports podcast and listen to them every week as they cover, of course, all of the sports. But it is NFL season, it is football season, and they'll be covering that all season long. And, of course, Stay Tuned Sports also recently added a Discord channel. So if you have Discord app, Jimbo, if you're in the chat and if you want to post a link to the Discord, feel free to. I don't know if you want me to advertise that or how much you want me to advertise that. I know the cap is out of the bag with your podcast listeners. So if you want to copy paste the link to the Discord in the chat, feel free to. But a great way to get connected to the Stay Tuned Sports group as they cover all of the sports. And we're getting into it in the Stay Tuned Sports podcast Discord just a little bit because, of course, I'm a Cowboys fan, being from Texas. But Jimbo is not. and a lot of his supporters are not as well. So it's getting a little spicy, and I think that's the fun of sports. You got people who like people, and you have people who don't like people, and I got to say that's the case in sim racing too, Andre.
Yeah. Anytime you have any sort of sports discussion, there's going to be a little bit of conflicting opinions, which can then kind of boil over. I'm not much of a stick and ball sports guy myself, but I do dabble in some sports drama. I do find it pretty entertaining, so maybe I'll have to check that out. But lights are off on the pace car, and we are about to get back underway. Lap 5. We'll consider this a fresh start here. Let's see if we can get this thing underway cleanly. It's kind of funny, we can have 25 of these guys at, I believe it was Talladega. 25 drivers at a super speedway. We only had 2 cautions. 10 of them. And we're under caution on lap 1. It's what a dichotomy.
Hey, it happens. Cold tires can get the best of all of us, and I'm sure these drivers will be mindful of those cold tires when we get back going here in just a moment, because the pace car is going to make that really late lunge. In fact, Johnny Williams saying, I think Brett Bodine has been drinking a little bit here tonight. might very well be. But the green flag is back in the air. Everyone rolling nice and clean this time. Tellier getting a huge jump there, Andre, getting a full 2 or 3 truck advantage as they head off towards turn number 1. The big battle, though, is a little bit further behind them. Philip Scott to the outside here of Adam Newton. That 971, though, just holding station in front of him. That, of course, is Nate Maurer in that 971 machine. Good start for him. He started third, now running in second. Look at Philip Scott going all the way up to the top side of the racetrack. You see them hitting those bumps through turn number 3. That just unsettled that F-150 just a little bit, but further back, we got some more side-by-side action back there. So good restart here. Andre, we've made it a lap under green flag conditions.
We got there in the end, and Mike Tellier, you pointed it out, he got a really good start that time, much better than the first initial start. On that first start, we had Nate Maurer right on his rear bumper prior to that yellow flag. I mean, he started pretty much in unison, timed it really well. This time, not so much. Kind of fell back a little ways here. Adam Newton in P2, starting to get separated just a little bit. Pointed out Philip Scott running the very high line. And you're going to see drivers, I think, all over the track kind of searching around for what works and where the speed is. Because right now, with the track being as cool as it is and the tires being as fresh as they are, there's really no limits as to where they can run. The top of the track isn't really going to be a death sentence. It's not like there's too many marbles going on up there. You could run the top, you could run the bottom, you could run mid, wherever you feel comfortable, wherever you find the speed. And it seems like right now, towards the bottom is where they want to be. But of course, if the tire wear is as bad as some of these drivers are expecting, you're going to see them slowly migrate up to the wider turn radius up top. But riding on board with Valvano right behind the 17, who was involved in that first caution. Kind of trapped behind the number 2, Justin White. And as these guys battle, they're seeing that front pack start to break away a little bit. But here we go, 3 wide. 17 in the wall. How did that happen?
Yeah, not a good race start for the number 17 of Tristan Maher. Not sure there if he just lost concentration. We'll get another look at this one on the 3 wide TV replay. But I'm just a little bit concerned about that number 17. We obviously saw damage on the number 17. See on the left front. Now watch what happens. Now this backstretch is curved, folks, and I think he might have just maybe looked down or something happened. Something definitely distracted him, and he just went straight up into the wall. I mean, absolutely unforced error out of the Eclipse Photography F-150. Now he's all alone by himself back there. And remember, Andre comes into tonight as the points leader here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series chase. That could be absolutely mega for his points battle.
That could be really big, and it's strange. Tristan started the season so strong. He did come into this race as the points leader as well, but it just seems like he's had a rash of bad luck recently. Things just not really going his way, and this is not the time of the season to have bad luck. This is when you want to get hot. This is when you want to start getting on a bit of a roll, and it's just not going that way. Everything seems to be snowballing for that 17 team, and that incident right there, you're right. It could have just been a lack of concentration, maybe just a lapse in paying attention. But that back straightaway being curved, I'll tell you, it might look like a silly mistake on the screen, but this is the only mile and a half that has a back straightaway like that. And it is really subtle when you're in the car. Of course, you got to remember, these guys are sitting on the left-hand side. They can't really turn their head, so they can't really see out the passenger side. Sometimes you think you're just skirting the line. You're running that high line on the wall, and then it reaches out and it grabs you. I've done that on this track in the old EA games. I've done it on iRacing. It's you can see right there on the onboard. It doesn't actually look that curved when you're in the car, but of course, from the third-person perspective outside of the car, you can see it a little bit more. You get a better appreciation.
Yeah, it's definitely something you have to be mindful of. And honestly, one of the reasons I love this racetrack, because I feel like you have to be kind of on your A game for 3/4 of the lap. I mean, there are definitely other racetracks where, you know, you can kind of take a break. You can take a mental rest when you're on the straightaway, but you can... It's better when you can kind of see off into the distance, right? You can see that curvature, but if you're tucked up behind another truck, you can't really see that that curvature off in the distance, and it can play a little bit of a trick on you. That might have been what happened to Tristan Maher as he finds himself 8.5 seconds behind Mike Tellier, who has got himself out to a 2.2 second lead here as we work lap number 15. Here comes Philip Scott, though. Power move to the outside of Nate Maurer with return number 1 and 2. They will be side by side now down the backstretch. Look at the number 29 right there of Adam Newton trying to give maybe a little bit of draft to the 971 machine. He knows that the 99 of Scott is nice and fast. And how about this? Maybe 3 wide on 3 wide TV, maybe for just a second, as Philip Scott gonna go kind of for a 2-for-1 here, Andre. Past the 971, now looking to get around the outside of the 29 of Newton.
Yeah, this has been a really impressive run of laps here for him. That high line, I knew it was fast, but I really thought the draft help those trucks on the bottom had was going to cancel that out. When they linked up, they had really good straight line speed, and I thought they were going to be able to keep the 99 trapped up against the wall, and they would just pull out back ahead every single straight. But no, on his own, with no help whatsoever, Philip Scott got the 2-for-1 Blue Light Kmart special, and he got around him up into P2. Now, the problem for Philip Scott now is that while he's been battling with these guys, that 97 Hello Kitty machine has just been driving off into the night. He is 2 seconds ahead. We're only 17 laps in. Now, what was it we just heard, Peter, about the tortoise and the hare? Well, Tellier definitely being the hare right now. He has been the fastest truck, but if you look at that scoring and timing, ever so slowly, Philip Scott is reeling him in. 100th here, 100th there. Maybe he did a good job of preserving his tires. Maybe he's going to be able to be the tortoise in this situation.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see as the lap counter continues to click away. It is a bit of a long race here tonight, 200 miles, 134 laps. If you're just now joining us, we had a caution on the opening lap, a little bit of a snafu on the cold tires, but one of the drivers involved in that situation, Tom Lester's, recovered in ninth. The other driver, who is our points leader, Tristan Maher, just making things a little bit more interesting in the points situation, because we talked about this kind of at the top of the show, that Tristan Maher came in with a pretty good 21-point lead. Now, we do have a small field here tonight, which is going to play kind of to the advantage of Tristan Maher, but he comes in with that 21-point advantage over Philip Scott in the number 99, who just worked his way up in to second, 2 seconds off of the race lead. Has put about a half second now on the drivers behind him, so that's kind of good news for him as we continue to watch the number 2 here of Justin White now trying to make a move on Vincent Valvano, the Bagcraft F-150 on the high side there through turns number 1 and 2. Good job out of that number 2 of Justin White. Looks like he is going to pull off this pass on the inside groove, and sure enough does so. So the number 2 now up into 6th spot. That's right where he started at the drop of the green flag. It's still over 100 laps here to go in the Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Bar 200.
That was a great pass by the number 2, kind of the opposite of what we saw earlier with the 99. He made the passes up high, while Justin White made the passes down low. He's probably got one of those 2 times caffeinated, what do they call them? The espresso dry pouches that Grinds Coffee Pouches has, because he's moving. He's got some energy underneath the hood of that number 2, and he's actually starting to get a bit of a gap on Valvano there, who is actually kind of under fire here. That 22, Flamian, he is closing the gap, and the 17 is in the pits. This is a big development. A lot of damage to the rear end of that truck that I didn't see before. What happened here? Something off camera must have occurred. We'll take a look at the 3-wide TV replay, courtesy of Peter dialing it up here. And the 17. Whoa! Oh no! That was a hardware failure, Peter. That wheel, if you watch that steering wheel, it locks to the left, and it's still locked to the left. I think his wheel came disconnected.
Yeah, that's the only thing that would describe that. He's absolutely... You see him right here. Go on board with the gyro cam. Oh yeah, look at that. You can see that those hands don't move that fast in real life. That wheel all of a sudden got turned a single way, and then unfortunately doing donuts there on the backstretch did not bring out a caution, but that will pretty much do the night for Tristan Maher, our points leader, coming into the show. And that is definitely going to swing things in the point situation for next week. And let's talk about next week. We got 4 races left after tonight. We got Charlotte Motor Speedway, 200 miles, Kentucky, 200 miles. And then we go to Phoenix for only a 125-mile event. And then we round out the season with a 200-mile championship finale at Las Vegas. So, you know... Still a lot of racing left to go, but points are definitely going to be a little bit more exciting, put it that way, going into the 5th round of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series chase next week. Got this battle kind of a little bit further back in the pack, still inside the top 10, as the 22 has been putting on a pretty good show. I've been keeping my eyes on the number 22 of Flamian. He's definitely been charging his way to the front. Remember, he started a little bit further back in the field, started in 12th. In fact, started shotgun on the field. He's now worked his way up to 6 seconds behind the race leader, Mike Floppy Tellier, who is slowly being reeled in by the number 99 of Philip Scott. But Flamian putting on a good show here as, the number 29 machine of Adam Newton has, I missed this, Newton came down onto pit road. Interesting call. We're getting word that it was a 2-tire stop for the number 29 machine. Might that bring other drivers onto pit road here shortly?
I'm going to make a bet and say that it won't. I'm not entirely certain that was a planned pit stop. We'll take a look at the 3-wide TV replay here. I believe checking in on Adam Newton. Here he is coming through 3 and 4. He's got Doug Neal behind him in that Simbox 77. Just very intentionally coming down pit road. It's not like he just got loose and said, all right, well, I guess that's where we're going now. Sometimes that does happen where somebody gets loose coming out of 4, they find themselves in pit road, and they say, all right, well, this is my life now. But no, that was a planned stop. Now, how planned it was, I don't know, because I don't see the benefit to this strategy. We're looking at a very likely long green flag run, and of course, having limited tires, taking 2 of them this early and just leaving scuffs on the wall, I don't know about that.
Well, I don't think he even took tires. I didn't even see the jacks go up on that number 29 machine. So very interesting move by the driver of the number 29 machine here, as he is currently 1 lap down. Tristan Maher, we believe, has taken the number 17 behind the wall, called it a night here. Definitely not going to be his race to win here in the Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Bar 200 here on 3-wide TV, the National Sim Racing Association. There is the number 97, Mike Floppy Tellier. He is your race leader. Then in second is Philip Scott, now just 0.7 of a second back. Nate Maurer, another 0.4 of a second, and a whole second back to Doug Neal, who silently has worked his way up through the field. He started in 8th, now running in 4th, so doing quite a bit better than where the Simbox Chevy Silverado qualified. Good job there, Doug, as we continue to work our way through this green flag run. We've been green flag since, I believe, lap number 5 or 6, something like that. You can go back and rewind if you want to correct me, but nonetheless, the 77 doing a good job on this long green flag run of charging his way up to the front. We have had, of course, a couple of comers and goers as well. Adam Newton And the number 29 started up towards the front of the field, started in second, now running in 10th after that green flag pit stop. I just don't know why he would have made that green flag pit stop. Definitely a little bit of an odd one, but maybe he can get a lucky caution at some point here tonight. But all eyes will be on the battle for the race lead here shortly, because guess what, Andre? That number 99, he's coming.
Yeah, he's coming, and he's actually bringing Nate with him. Nate is actually lapping a little bit quicker than Philip Scott in the last couple laps, so these three trucks are coming together, and before long, we're going to have a three-way battle for the lead. You know, going back to Tristan, though, in that number 17, the more I think about it, Peter, I wonder if those wheel issues weren't happening earlier in the race as well. When he got into the outside wall on the back straightaway, I wonder if that steering wheel wasn't responding properly. Because the way it came disconnected so abruptly when he finally wrecked out there, I don't know, that could have been an issue earlier. That may have been the cause of his prior problem. But look at those lap times. Doug Neal, absolutely flying right now. He's a 10th of a second faster per lap than our current race leader. Justin White, 4/10 of a second faster, 3/10 of a second, 2/10 of a second. He is flying. I think, unfortunately for Mike Tellier here, he may have burned up his Hello Kitty Goodyear tires because, well, everybody is closing in at this point.
I know they make a lot of Hello Kitty things, Andre, but I didn't know they made Hello Kitty Goodyear tires. I mean, I'm not surprised. I shouldn't be surprised. There's Hello Kitty everything. I mean, you can get a Hello Kitty pencil, Hello Kitty this, that, and the other. I'm sure they make pillows and blankets and everything. And now Goodyear tires. Add that to the mix. But yeah, I'm actually very interested here, Andre, because you saw Justin White. He was, I mean, he's 2.5 seconds back, but he was closing in faster than these other drivers around him are. So the front of the field right now seems like it's kind of accordioning back together late in the run. Some drivers saved their stuff maybe a little bit better than the others. And it's going to be a lot of fun, especially if Tellier can hold up Philip Scott. If he can hold him up for just a little bit, that's definitely going to bring everyone back together in this battle for the race lead. Although Philip Scott had a massive run out of turn number 2, he's going to dive to the inside here down the backstretch, push Tellier to the high side. That might go against the whole holding him up statement there, but Tellier going to try and hold strong here on the outside out of turn number 4.
Yeah, I think we all knew that Philip was going to be real aggressive with this overtake to try to make it happen. Now, he actually loses some momentum there. Tellier's going to hold on to the lead. But when the 99 looks in the rearview mirror, he's got Nate right there. And he knows that if he doesn't get around this leader sooner rather than later, Nate may drive away with it. He is a little bit quicker than these front two trucks, and we can see that lap after lap. So Philip wants to get ahead of this 97, use him as a bit of a pick. He's going to go down to the bottom again. Almost a mirror image of what we saw last time around. Well, the last lap, the 97 was able to fight back on the high line. A little bit of a wiggle there is going to prevent him from getting clear early, but some draft help from the 971 is going to compensate for that. Back out front, Mike Tellier, and it is going to be Nate Maurer moving up to second on the high side as the 99 just drops back a little bit. I'm hearing some radio chatter. Somebody's coming down pit road here on lap 37. And here comes Nate again up on the high side, trying to get a little bit of a side draft here, Peter. That's something we haven't really mentioned, but you can definitely side draft in these trucks to great effect. And look at that! Second and first coming down to the pit lane. Coming in hot, getting a little bit sideways, but they get it woed up in time. No penalties there. And look at that, Justin White, only a few truck lengths behind our leaders. That leaves Philip Scott out to make another lap on these old tires. He may be losing some time. I think they did that intentionally there. I think they were trying to keep Philip in the dark about that one.
Yeah, Philip definitely found out that one late as both of these two drivers in their pit box, nice and neatly. Justin White also in his box. Let's check out, let's check out Philip Scott. I thought he was going to be a race leader, but he's on pit road. Doug Neal, John Flamian both stay out. Now third place goes to Tom Lester. Vincent Valvano up to fourth as we continue to cycle on through. But there is Philip Scott coming down to his pit crew. Well, make sure that the World Ninja League machine gets into his box nice and neatly. There we go. Good job there, Philip. Not overshooting the box. Now Doug Neal waiting to see the number 77 Simbox machine make that hard left turn onto pit road. There he goes. Looks like Flamian Also coming on pit road back behind him, Vincent Valvano. Oh, Flammy in the 22. Oh, man, Andre had such a good race going. Doesn't look like he hit a whole lot, but that's definitely going to set him back.
You know, I was just going to say, these guys are entering the pits really hot. They're getting pretty aggressive. And no sooner than I was thinking that, the 22 just gets in a little bit too steep. We'll take a look at a replay of Flamian from an onboard perspective. You're going to see him take that transition, although I don't think the transition down to the banking was necessarily his problem. I think you're just going to see him get on the brakes a little too hard, trying to get under the pit road speed limit. And, of course, just swung down to that inside wall. If he hit that inside wall, it was just a kiss, and he should be all right. So lost some time, but definitely could have been worse.
Yeah, definitely could have been worse. Now things continuing to cycle on out on the racetrack. Now we did want to highlight the number 29 machine of Adam Newton briefly cycled, believe it or not, to the race lead. Now not the race lead rather, but the front of the drivers who have already pitted. The only interesting thing to note there is that the number 29 of Adam Newton has yet to take a set of tires, which could be a little bit of an advantage later on in the race, Andre. But he's going to kind of need to have a couple of cautions, I think, play out in his favor. You see all the ground he's losing on the drivers in front of him. Already lost a second and a half over the last lap and a half or so. So, yeah, things might stabilize a little bit as this run goes on. But Adam Newton here bleeding time to the front pack. But we'll see how that strategy all works out by the time the checkered flag falls. Definitely an interesting strategy. I don't hate it because he's doing something that his other contenders are not doing. And if luck goes his way, it could really pan out in his favor.
Yeah, you know, initially I was really weary of the call that he was making, and I didn't quite understand it. And quite frankly, I still don't understand it, but there's got to be a reason he's doing this. There's something he knows. I'm starting to feel pretty confident that he knows something we up in the booth don't. And I don't know if maybe the tire limit is just really stringent, and he feels like having that extra set is going to be one of the most important things when it comes down to it. But there's something cooking behind the wheel of that 29. He's up to something, and I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what it is, because clearly this is an intentional strategy, something that he is dedicated to, so that'll be fun to watch. Up front, Mike Tellier's still in the lead, but not by much. Look at that, Nate Maurer right there on the bumper, and it seemed to be a little bit faster on the long run last time. Well, we know he was faster on the long run, but now we're here in the short run. Now, this last time, on the last stint, was where Mike Tellier really had the advantage, where he was able to pull away, but I don't see that here. I think Nate's going to stay with him tire track for tire track if he can, and that's going to be pretty difficult for that 97, because if he falls off in the long run and he does not have that big gap between him and second place like he had before, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but a little bit behind them, Doug Neal in the 77, 1.6 seconds back. Philip Scott, 2.7. Now that doesn't necessarily surprise me, but that's a reality check there, Peter. Philip Scott stayed out one lap longer than Tellier and Nate, and he lost 2.5 seconds for it. That is drastic, and that, to me, confirms that tire wear is brutal here.
Well, one thing that's interesting to note about the number 99 of Philip Scott, looking at his pit time and his pit lane time, is pit time actually wasn't that bad, 14.92. Nate Maurer had the fastest pit stop currently inside the top 5 with a 14.5. So Philip lost about 0.4 of a second in his pit box to Maurer. Didn't really lose any time to Tellier. But one thing to note is his pit lane time was a little bit high. It was about 1.5 to almost 2 seconds slower than some of his contenders around him, and that did not help the situation. In fact, that has actually allowed Doug Neal, who has 1 lap fresher tires in the number 77 Simbox machine, who had one of the best pit lane times, to not only leapfrog him, but also have that 1 lap tire advantage on the Simbox Chevrolet. So Doug Neal's actually in a pretty good spot here as he battles with Nate Maurer for the second position as we go across the start-finish line to complete lap number 47. Just under 100 laps to go here in the Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Bar 200 here tonight on 3Y TV. Definitely going to be fun to see how this all pans out by the end of the night. But these two duking it out down the backstretch with Doug Neal continuing to impress. Started in 8th, now running in 3rd. That is a +5 from the drop of the green flag. And if he can get around Nate Maurer, that will be +6. Really good job here tonight for that 77.
Yeah, you know, Doug has been impressing me in recent weeks, and I would love to see his finishes laid out on a chart for every race, because I feel like, and I'm not going off statistics that I can see, I haven't looked at the actual sheets, but just from what I can recall, it seems like he's just been getting better all year. Start of the season, it kind of seemed like maybe he was struggling behind the wheel, that 77, wasn't really jiving with the setups, or something just wasn't clicking. And then every single race, just a little bit better, and now he's just a contender. Week in and week out, he's up front, getting a lot of camera time, and doing a lot of interesting strategy calls. That is another thing I've noticed out of Doug Neal. He tends to get a little bit off strategy. Not so far off strategy that he puts himself at a disadvantage, but just far off enough that, you know, he's playing a different game than these other guys, and he's kind of giving himself a bit of an advantage. So he's been fun to watch, and with this battle for second place, I think he may be able to get around him here. Like I said, that one lap tire advantage, that's going to be pretty important with how much the tires wear. But where's he going to do it? You can pass high, you can pass low, but either way, you got to go where the guy in front of you isn't. And right now, Nate is making that truck real wide, Peter. He is trying to kind of predict where Doug is going to go and take that line away from him. And lap after lap, he's done a pretty good job of it. But right here, may not have succeeded, as Doug's going to move down to the bottom. He's going to get door to door, nose to nose, and at the line, it is going to be Doug Neal with the advantage. P2 for that 77. Now, as these guys have battled, Mike Tellier is taking advantage of that. He's out to a 1.2 second lead. Let's see if Doug can run him down.
Yeah, Doug Neal has a 2-lap tire advantage on the number 97 of Mike Kloppy Tellier as well, so that is a little bit of an advantage that number 77 has, at least for now. These drivers last pitting somewhere between lap number 37 and lap number 39 up at the front of the field. Jason Shue was able to stretch it to lap number 40 out of the current lead lap trucks. We're down to just 9 lead lap trucks as Vincent Valvano. Bad news for the Vinny camp. Pit road speeding penalty for the Bagcraft number 64. He had a 40-second stop and hold, and you and I know, Andre, that 40 seconds here, well, these drivers are whipping around here in about 31-second laps, so that is an entire lap and then some that you lose just sitting in your pit box for that speeding violation. So Vinny's going to have to hope for a caution flag and a Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award to get himself back up onto the lead lap here tonight. But at least for right now, there is only one truck, one lap down. Jason Shue in the number 3 would be the next car to fall a lap down. We did highlight the number 22 machine, John Flamion. Remember, he had that pit road mishap as well. Wasn't a speeding penalty for the number 22. It was a mistake penalty for the number 22 with a little bit of a slide on entry into pit lane, and unfortunately finds himself now 16.8 seconds behind Mike Floppy Tellier. But I'm keeping my eye on that gap right up at the front of the field, because I think this is going to be the battle for the lead here, breaking out momentarily as Doug Neal continues to chip away at Mike Tellier's lead. In fact, let's see if we can bring up that lap time history between the front two, because I think it's pretty telling here exactly what you see right there. And that is Doug Neal gaining about 0.2 to a 1/10.5 per lap over the last 4 laps once he got clear of Nate Maurer. So, Andre, I think we're going to have a battle for the lead here soon.
Yeah, that is definitely what it's coming down to. And Nate, again, even though he did get passed by Doug Neal, he's not let him drive too far away. You can see he's about as far behind Neal as Neal is behind Mike Tellier, and they're just sort of starting to come back together. We're seeing the slinky effect every single stint, where they start to separate, they get really far apart, and then they just kind of slinky on back together, and then we have a battle that goes on until the pit stops. But man, if you're Mike Tellier, you got to be thinking about, how can I do a better job preserving these tires? How can I improve this long run? Because if this thing stays green and this keeps happening, that is not the winning strategy. You can't have these guys catching up right at the end of your runs. That's not ideal, and it's tough. You know, tire saving in iRacing is difficult. It's very, very... It's a thin line between abusing your tires and not abusing them, and really oftentimes there's no indication as to how rough you're being. But look at that, a little bit of a mistake out of Doug Neal. I believe the right rear actually got into the outside wall. That allowed Nate Maurer to get around him only by a little bit as they rocket out of turn 4 here. I'm not sure if he got tight or if he just got a little bit loose, or maybe a combination of the two. Sometimes you get loose, and then as you chase it up the track, it starts to catch and get tight. That may be the case with Doug Neal, but luckily no damage that I can see visibly. Just a little bit of heat put into them tires is all, and now he's got to try to get around Nate again. And I'll tell you what, that was a good saving grace for Mike Tellier. He was able to once again extend his lead for the first time in quite a few laps, as those two were kind of sorting each other out.
Yeah, just as we're saying, a battle for the race lead might be breaking out momentarily. Well, you know, they have to prove the commentators wrong, that's for sure. If you're just now joining us in the chat here tonight, there is a Discord link to the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Discord. You can click on that link, join the Discord, and talk about NFL, NBA, NHL, so on and so forth. In fact, there's quite a few channels in there that are going to be fun to watch. Of course, right now I think really we just got the MLB and NFL, and of course NCAA football going on. But as things as the year goes on, we'll start to pick up NHL. They are in preseason there. If you like hockey, well, we're only a couple weeks away from the beginning of the NHL season. Always fun to have that back. Of course, NBA tags along around the same time with it. But I know that the Dallas Stars have been playing some preseason hockey games, and it's going to be fun to keep up with the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast with all that they have to say. Of course, pretty heavy Philadelphia presence there, but as Jimbo in the chat says that they have Dallas Giants, Eagles fans, Brewer fans, so on and so forth. So a pretty wide fan base up and down. So definitely join the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, the Discord, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how that evolves. But speaking of evolving, Battle for the Race lead has now evolved to Tellier and Maurer again, as we are probably about 10 or so laps away from seeing these drivers back on pit road. But more importantly here, Andre, we are right now about 5 laps away from seeing the cross flags at the Homestead, not Homestead, where that's a completely different side of the country, at the Chicagoland Motor Speedway.
It's close enough. They're both ovals. They both go left, 1.5 miles. I don't see the difference.
They're the same picture, aren't they?
Corporate wants you to find the difference between these two tracks. We got a battle right here. Look at this. Nate down to the bottom of the white line. Now, one thing that this 97 has been good at all night is defending on that high line, but unfortunately for him, it's going to be tough. That 971 sliding up, contact between the two, and I tell you what, very generous move by Nate to lift out of the throttle and keep them both safe, because he very easily could have stayed on that loud pedal, but he regrouped, said, nope, okay, we're sliding up, I don't want to do it that way, and so the 971 is going to fall back, and the 97 had a bit of a stroke there, I apologize. The 97 is able to live another day in the lead here, but man, that was a lot of contact for them to not spin out. I am really impressed that they were able to keep it going.
Yeah, but that has definitely allowed the top 5 to all close in. In fact, now the number 2 of Justin White, less than 2 seconds on back. This is that same accordion effect that we saw at the end of the last green flag run before the first round of green flag pit stops that we saw, where everyone was starting to work their way back together. Doug Neal has fallen about a second off of the race lead, but Philip Scott mounting a charge. He was over 2 seconds back a little while ago, now just under 1.5 seconds. And Justin White continuing to impress with his long run pace. He's and under 2 seconds behind the race lead as well. If those front two get into it, and again, Andre, I think would be looking at a 5-car battle for the race lead, which at this stage of the race is extremely impressive, as Jason Shu and John Fleming a little bit further back in the pack, they are battling with one another. But how about this? Philip Scott to the outside now of Doug Neal, trying to take that 3rd spot away. I just wonder if Doug Neal, when he caught that wall, Andre, if he did do some damage to the right side of that Chevy Silverado. Just does not seem like he's had the pace since.
Yeah, it's not been the same truck, not by a long shot. It was like a light switch got flipped. As soon as he got into that wall, he was going in the opposite direction. He was easily one of the fastest trucks, if not the fastest truck on the track, and then just started going in reverse, which you never like to see. So good news for him, though. Oh, 99 into the outside wall. That's going to allow Justin White to make a move down low. Let's see if he can complete it. They're going to be side by side out of the corner with the 99 getting the advantage with that added momentum. I got to tell you, I did not think Scott was going to be able to hold on to that position. He was in that wall pretty hard, but he's going to keep on going, and new leader Nate Maurer is just going to slide job Mike Tellier, but here comes Mike with a crossover back down to the bottom. He's got the preferred line down there. Can he get this lead back? I'll tell you what, that 97 may not be the fastest truck on the track, but he is one of the best when it comes to racing these guys and putting up a tough battle. He's going to stay just barely ahead by a nose. As they go into 3 and 4, the 971 pulls ahead by just a few inches. He's going to run half a lane up from that apron, pulls ahead right here. Coming up the track, no contact. Still side by side. It is going to be who at the line? Mike Tellier at the line by about 0.05 of a second, I would say. And again, through 1 and 2, who's it going to be? I think 971 may get it right here. Yep, Nate gets clear, but man, what a hard-fought battle for that 97. He did not make it easy.
Meanwhile, Philip Scott, the number 99 machine, after smacking the wall, Andre, he came down onto pit road. So an early pit stop for the World Ninja League Ford F-150 came down. That crew went to work. Did not have a, I wouldn't say he had an extended pit stop. He just kind of came down, took on fresh tires, but an early pit stop now for Philip. We'll see how that all shakes out, as we expect to see most of these drivers around him on pit road, probably in the next 5 laps or so. In fact, we might see 1 or 2 dive down here momentarily. But Justin White, in that situation, got himself up to 3rd. But as I say that, he's now peeling down onto pit lane. So the Grinds Coffee Pouches pit crew will go to work here in just a moment, continuing to watch these front two duke it out. When do you think we'll see either Maurer or Tellier come to their pit group?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think their hands have been forced now. They got a lot of really fast competition that came down pit road, and they're going to be coming out on those fresh tires and making up time lap after a lap. So if Nate and Mike do not come down pit road soon, right, there they go. I was going to say, if they don't come down pit road soon, it's going to be disastrous. A little bit sideways for Nate. Hopefully he got it down to pit road speed. But I do want to take a moment to remind the viewers at home who might be wondering, why have they pitted twice on lap 73 already? This is a 75% fuel capacity lead. So their fuel tank's a little bit smaller than the standard NASCAR Truck Series amount that you would run. So they can't quite go as far. Oh! Mike Tellier overshoots his stall. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. But as I was saying, a little bit less fuel in these things, which I think is actually one of the reasons that these guys were worried about the tire limit, Peter, because this track eats tires, but you may have to pit more times for fuel than you have tires behind the wall. As the 77 is also coming down pit road, that's just about going to complete our pit sequence with the exception of a few. Lester, Shu, and Flamian all have yet to come down pit road, but once they make their stop, that'll be sequence number 2 in the books, as we have new leader Shu and the number 3 again staying out a little bit longer than these other guys, trying to lead some laps.
Yeah, open to pick up maybe a caution flag and be the race leader coming down pit road, but I'm sure Jason will stretch it just as far as he can. I think he made it to lap number 40 under the first green flag run. There was a couple of caution laps in there, so presumably he can make it about 38 laps or so. this particular run, which would see him pit around lap number 77 to 78. We'll see whether or not that holds true or not. But with Philip Scott, remember he pitted a couple of laps early, Andre. He has gotten around Justin White and Nate Maurer. Interesting about Justin White, he pitted 1 lap before Maurer. And look, he's also been able to get around the 971 machine. Mike Floppy Tellier is sliding through that pit box. Well, he's about 1.8 seconds behind Nate Maurer. So that 97, with that small mistake, it can pay quite costly, as he currently rides in the 5th spot, well behind the trucks he was battling with just a while ago. Jason Shu has elected, though, to peel down onto pit lane. So that will, sure enough, finish pit sequence number 2 on the night here at the Chicagoland Speedway. Now, interestingly enough, Andre, we talked about the number 29 of Adam Newton. Remember, he's off strategy. He last pitted on lap number 60, so about 16 laps ago. He's closing in on halfway through his fuel run in the number 29 machine. Remember, he still has an extra set of tires. If we get a caution flag late, that could be really an advantage to the number 29, but only time will tell whether or not that is the case. So we'll keep our eyes on that here tonight at the Chicagoland Speedway. Meanwhile, in front of them, Justin White and Nate Maurer. White pitted 1 lap before Maurer, and Maurer's all over his rear tailgate.
Yeah, and that potential caution is it's a big if. With such a small field and such a long green flag run we've had, the longer this goes on, the less of a chance of a caution, I would say. So it's a bold strategy, but like you said, time will tell. Nate Maurer really trying to work this number 2 truck and get around him somehow, some way. Looking down low, maybe trying to get a run into the corner. He's going to be right on that tailgate, but it's not quite going to be enough. That dirty air is actually going to make him get a little bit tight there. Loses some time on corner entry, but he is going to get it back on exit. Seems like passing is not necessarily difficult to do here, but you do have to line it up, and you do have to kind of wait for the guy in front of you to open up that lane so that you can really get alongside, and from there, it doesn't really matter if you're on the top, on the bottom. We've seen passes pretty much using every single lane. It's just a matter of having a lane free to use and not taking the same line as the guy in front of you, which these guys have been doing lap after lap. The 971 pounding him, but Justin White doing a good job not cracking under pressure, not yet at least, as actually both of these drivers seem to be reeling in the 99. You can see him at the top of your screen, just starting to come into frame here. Philip Scott going to be making this a 3-truck battle sooner rather than later. Coming through the corner down on that white line. There they are. They are with Philip Scott. And this is going to be a race for the lead right here.
Yeah, and how about that number 2 of Justin White? Started this race in 6th, now running in 2nd and battling for the race lead. It has been a really strong showing for a couple of drivers here tonight. And that's one of the reasons I love this racetrack. And one of the reasons I think this racetrack is one of the best in iRacing is the fact that you do get these battles, like you mentioned, Andre, that passing's not necessarily difficult, but you gotta work for it. You can make passes here, and you can get these over-unders. You can get some drivers switching back as Justin White looks like he might be able to clear the number 99. Goes up the racetrack a little bit, does indeed, as Scott now falls back to 3rd. You also see a little bit of that right front damage on the World Ninja League F-150 if you look closely. That's from that contact on entry into turn number 1 when Philip was just trying to open up the entry into that corner too much. Grabbed onto that outside wall, and he's now going to fall, I think, back behind Mike Floppy Tellier. But, Justin White to the race lead for the first time here tonight. Great showing out of him. Although he has that 971 still locked on his back bumper.
Yeah, you'd think these trucks had tow hitches on them the way these guys are racing, because they're just kind of pulling each other around the track. We said that this may kind of race a little bit like a super speedway, especially on fresh tires, and we have seen a lot of that. A lot of close tailgating action as they've really slung around this track and really not had to lift a whole lot. The aero has been a very big factor here. The draft has pulled these guys together numerous times, and It's been fun to watch for such a small field. You know, you kind of expect these guys to get separated. You think there's not going to be a whole lot going on track, but no, these guys have been battling somewhere for some position in some capacity all night long, whether it's a race for the lead or race for third. And that's kind of the beauty of some of these fixed setup leagues too, is, you know, the truck is so equal. It can be hard to pull away, and if you do, sometimes you get punished by having excessive tire wear, like we've seen out of Tellier, and even at times Philip Scott kind of wearing his tires out. So all the factors combined have just brought these guys together to run very close lap times, very close on track. And Nate, man, he's been a warrior tonight. He has been battling with every single driver, hounding the bumper. I don't think he's had a single lap where he was any further away than a few tenths from the next car. Just constantly in and around traffic, and again, never cracking under pressure. When he's had to make the overtake, when he's had to play the defense, been on the opposite side of the coin. It's been a really good run out of that 971, but yet not led a lot of laps yet tonight. So he definitely wants to get around Justin White and finally give himself some breathing room.
Yeah, and our top five, though, have a lot of breathing room. Back to the number 48 of Tom Lester, who brought out our first and only caution flag that we've had here tonight. He sits about 21 seconds behind Doug Neal, 3 seconds or so up the road from John Flamian, who's also about 3 seconds up the road from Jason Shu, who is getting close to being in danger of going one lap down. You just saw a flash of him a couple seconds up the road from the number 2 machine of Justin White. Vincent Valvano in the number 64 machine has fallen 2 laps down, with his earlier pit road mishap putting him more than a lap down and then some. I do want to mention that Adam Newton has also come down and made his pit stop on lap number 80, so we expect to see still one more pit stop out of Adam Newton. If there's anything about Adam Newton's run here tonight, Andre, it's going to be the fact that I think Newton has to make one more pit stop from here, as does your race leaders. So I think everyone has one more stop to make, and that's just not going to play into the advantage at all for the Budweiser number 29 of Newton. We'll see exactly how that shakes out. Maybe we get that lucky caution flag for him. Meanwhile, we just missed it, but, well, maybe I didn't miss it because Philip Scott's fighting back for that spot. But I was just going to mention Doug Neal working his way around the number 99 machine here of Scott as they battle for fourth.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I think the 77 team must have done a good job pulling the fenders out on that thing and getting it back up to speed, because this is the 77 that we were seeing earlier in the race. It seems like he's back in form here as he moves up into fourth, battling with Philip Scott. Definitely a fast truck, but a huge gap that he's got to conquer to get up to third place. Tellier barring a caution, and it's tough. You know, this track it punishes being fast. You know, if you're a Doug Neal and you push your truck and you close that 3 second gap, well, you might be able to close it, but by the time you get there ain't going to be nothing left on those rims to actually make the pass. So you have to kind of ration out the laps that you kind of put down and kind of pick and choose when you're going to hot lap, when you're going to use up your equipment, and you just can't push it too hard for too long. So it's a tough situation that Doug Neal finds himself in right now, but it's been so long since we had a caution. Who knows? Maybe we get a lucky yellow that would help out Adam Newton, that would help out Doug Neal. Definitely change the way that this race is shaping up. But here we go. Battle for the lead back in action. Nate kind of fell a little way back, regrouped. Now he's back on the bumper, and he is going to move half a lane up, try to get some clean air in that 971 truck. But I tell you what, that number 2 truck, Justin White, cold as ice. He has not once given up his line. He's not once made a mistake or fell under the pressure of Nate Maurer. He's got that lead, and he has held on to it.
Yeah, really doing a great job up at the front of the field. I know if there's any driver in the field that I think most of the drivers, if not all of the drivers, would very much support going to victory lane, it is this number 2. Justin White has taken over the reins as the head administrator here in the National Sim Racing Association after Chris Darling retired from the position a little while ago. and really is taking on the reins of the league, is already looking at what to do next season to try and build on the series as it is now, try and get some input from the drivers. There's an open poll right now for all of the drivers to take. If you're a driver listening to this right now, or if you're interested in becoming a member of the National Sim Racing Association, will join their Discord and definitely vote on the open poll that they have going on right now. It asks what people think of the schedule. It asks people what they think of the number of laps. It asks quite a few things. So definitely go check that out if you're one of the drivers. Maybe you missed it in your inbox or whatnot, but that is definitely a thing to keep your eyes on. As the number 2 of Justin White works his way out of turn number 4 once again to complete lap number 94. Andre, we got 40 laps to go, just 60 miles here in the Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Bar 200, excuse me.
Yeah, this race is going by in a flash. I mean, with all the green flag racing and the lack of yellow flags, it's really starting to come down to it, which is, of course, is just going to make these guys want to race even harder, especially if you're Nate Maurer in second place and you've just been staring at the back of that number 2, looking at that Grinds Coffee Pouches logo for lap after lap. Eventually, you want some new scenery, and by that, I mean you want to see an open track in front of you with no trucks in sight. So he's been fighting for it, but man, just not quite able to make the pass. And the thing is, I think the longer he stays behind him, the harder this pass is going to get to make, because while this track is incredibly multi-lane on fresh tires, and you can run anywhere you want, on old tires, it starts to whittle itself down. Lanes start to become unviable, and you have to kind of run where the speed is. And so if you step out of line to try to make a pass, the tires give way, and it just doesn't end well. So he is starting to fall back now just a little bit through 3 and 4. You saw he lost some time. He was only a tenth of a second back now, 0.4 seconds. So Justin White extending his lead. Mike Tellier 2 seconds back. So these front two have broken away. Right now, it seems like Justin has the faster car.
Yeah, Justin has been able to leg it out just a little bit over the last couple of laps, almost up to 0.4 of a second. Mike Tellier has wiggled his way back to about 2 seconds behind the race lead in the number 97, although he's losing a couple of tenths. Then it's a pretty big drop-off back to Doug Neal and Philip Scott. I think both of those drivers still dealing with trucks that have a small amount of damage on them, but just enough to take some speed away from those machines as we close in on 40 laps to go. One thing to note, Andre, is I believe right now the window is open for these drivers to make it the rest of the race on just a single pit stop. It might be a little bit much out of these drivers at this point, but that window, I think, is open. So we'll see whether or not we get some of these drivers taken to pit lane here in a hurry. I wouldn't be at all surprised if you see Philip Scott, Doug Neal down pit road here in the next couple of laps, especially with Philip Scott, one of the earlier takers this last sequence. He pitted 32 laps ago. Maybe pitting in a lap or two from now. Doug Neal, I expect him to come down as those two are kind of locked in their battle again. Here is that battle, speaking of it, as Philip Scott running a little bit higher up there on the racetrack. Doug Neal running a little bit lower, closer to that white line, but this would be the battle for fourth right now, just off the podium. Philip Scott needing a big night, trying to make a big advantage, or make as much of an advantage of Tristan Maher's disastrous tonight. That number 17 came into the race as your points leader here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, but will finish last of the drivers that actually made it to the starting grid. So Philip Scott, with that pass, moves himself up into fourth here as we're down to just 34 laps to go.
Doug Neal conceding the position, but of course staying on that rear bumper. Maybe going to try to fight back for it. We'll have to see if that is possible. But out front, Justin White continuing to give himself some leg room here as he is at 0.7 seconds ahead of Nate Maurer. And Mike Tellier still 2.7 seconds behind our leader as well. Not really falling any further back than the last time we checked, but also not really gaining. So Tellier is kind of running on par right now up in the podium. And then behind them, Philip Scott, Doug Neal, these guys kind of cooked their tires. They've been falling back steadily, especially while they were battling with each other. And then massive gap to Lester and Flamian, who both are relatively close to going a lap down, as well as Shu in the number 3. He's actually, I would say, a couple laps away from going 1 lap down, which is bad news for Adam Newton, because if Jason Shu gets lapped under green, and then a yellow flag comes out, well then Adam Newton does not get the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. He has to take a wave around, which then completely negates his strategy that he's been working at all night. So he's got to hope that this pit sequence gets going pretty soon and these guys can unlap themselves.
Yeah, of course, no Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner here so far yet tonight. Let's, in fact, talk about some of the series sponsors as we wait for some of our leaders to come down pit road. Oh, there's one of them already is on pit road. That is Philip Scott. And that pit crew going to work now on the left-hand side. So he's the first one to blink. Looks like Mike Floppy Tellier also coming down on pit road in his Hello Kitty machine. But let's talk about some of those some of those race sponsors. Of course, we've got Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Sports Bar sponsoring tonight's event here on 3Y TV, MaxGrafix.co. They got a really cool paint scheme that does MaxGrafix.co in the Xfinity Series. A Terry Labonte throwback as your race leaders are on pit road, but the number 4 Alka-Seltzer machine will be a Terry Labonte throwback from the mid to late 90s from when he ran in the Busch Series. So pretty cool to see that, and hopefully that card does well at Talladega. But let's see. This is the money stop, Andre, and oof, I thought that number 2 ran a little bit further through that box, but luckily able to hit his sign, and that both of those crews going to work right now.
Yeah, I think he got it just right. He entered pretty quick, didn't waste any time being too conservative, and did not slide. But look at that, Nate actually pulling out ahead of him. So he's going to jump him on pit road, get out to what essentially will be the race lead once everybody else cycles through, and by a pretty big margin. Looking back from the tail end of that 971 truck, well, that number 2 is getting smaller and smaller in that rear windshield, so he's going to have some work to do to catch up, try to get around him. Great stop by that 971 team.
Oh, yeah, that was a stellar job by that virtual pit crew of invisible people that you just saw right there on your screen. There is a little bit of variability and randomness to the pit stop times that you have here in iRacing, and luckily for the 971 of Nate Maurer, the iRacing gods fell in his favor this time around, but race isn't over. Still plenty of time for these drivers to work their way forward. John Flamian heading down onto pit road looks like a little bit cleaner than his first attempt on pit road tonight. So good news for him. Doug Neal also in the 77 coming onto pit road. You got a little bit of a look. I thought that was some right front damage there, but it's just the paint scheme on that. Maybe that's why that little stripe there exists, Andre. Maybe Doug Neal just trying to throw off the commentators, back home.
Yeah, definitely just trying to prove us wrong, make our job a little bit harder. Thanks, Doug. No. I think at this point he kind of had to change up his strategy a little bit and kind of fall more in line with everybody else. But I don't know. This is going to get interesting here up front because I'm looking at that 97 truck, and of course, we know Mike has some really good short run speed. In fact, I would wager that he's got the speed to get around these 2 trucks in front of him that are taking up his windshield. The question is, when is his truck going to fall off? When is that long run speed that he's lacked all night going to come back to haunt him? Because really, there's not that many laps left. We're on lap 108 out of 134. He doesn't have to go very far. He doesn't have to go an entire fuel run. And it really is right at the tail end of a fuel run that he started to fall off. So if this race is going to be short enough from here on out, where Mike is able to just use that short run speed and not kind of fall off, that could be bad news for these guys, because he's definitely hounding them. He's faster than these guys right now. He's just got to get out front.
Yeah, just needs to get to the lead and maybe a little bit of clean air on the nose as the lifetime and scoring ticks across to 25 laps to go here at Chicagoland Speedway. Thank you for joining us. If you're in the chat with us, been a little bit of a quiet night, but of course we did have Stay Tuned Sports becoming a 9-month member of the 3YTV pit crew. Gotta give a big shout out to Jimbo and all the folks over at Stay Tuned Sports and the podcast that sponsors this series, as they also, in a way, sponsor us here on 3YTV. So I really do appreciate that. You got those custom emotes. Feel free to spam those in the chat here as the lap count continues to wind down. But interestingly enough here, Andre, Nate Maurer got out front, got about a 1.5 second advantage, but these two trucks behind him have been drafting together and have run him down. Now, they might be eating up their tires, but right now, Justin White once again looking hungry, and here comes Mike Tellier. He looks hungry in that Hello Kitty Toyota Tundra.
Yeah, for a minute, I thought they were going to go 3 wide for the lead, and there's contact. Nate is a little bit loose. Justin White has to check up. Everybody keeps going. Impressive save by Nate. Justin comes across the radio to apologize there. He's going to have to try and regroup here, but that is how on edge these guys are. I mean, just trying to get everything they can out of the truck, trying to position themselves in the best possible opportunity to make an overtake when the opportunity presents itself. But sometimes you get a little bit too close. You just, you bump the guy in front of you, and luckily in this case they were all able to keep going. But I'm a little surprised that Mike Tellier wasn't able to take better advantage of that. He did not gain a position out of that. He stayed in third while those guys were checking up in the corner. And as we go on board with Justin White, you can see some lap traffic up in the distance there. That's going to start to play a factor pretty soon here, as looks like Justin's going to look high, look low. He's going all over the track, Peter. He's trying to find some speed.
Yeah, he's trying to find the shortest way around the racetrack. The two trucks up in the distance, I think, are Jason Shue and Vincent Valvano. Both of those trucks already one or more laps down. But for Justin White here, you're right. Just trying to find a little bit of something, maybe trying to get a little bit of help from Tellier behind. I mean, a little bit earlier in the race, I think Tellier helped, I think somehow, some way, I think the 971 pushed someone else to get around Tellier, so I wonder if Tellier has that in the back of his mind. Maybe I'm not recalling exactly right, as Jason Shue stays out of the way for the front three drivers here with 20 laps to go, but Tellier might be falling off just a little bit off the back of the front two. We'll see how that all shakes out. Just wonder if Tellier's tires might be falling off a little bit. Maybe that's the reason why he was not quite able to take advantage, like you said there, Andre. But at least for now, this front three, by far best battle of the racetrack as they continue to click off laps.
Yeah, it has been a really good battle. Justin White just kind of in the opposite situation. In the last stint, he had the lead, and he had to really defend against Nate, and Nate was just stuck behind him. Nothing he could really do. Now, the tables have turned. Nate's got the lead. Justin White is in second place, and he's the one that's got to do a little bit of work to try to get around him, and it just hasn't happened yet. It has been pretty difficult for him to try to find the speed. We've seen him just searching all over the track, running a high line, running a low line, and just no matter where he goes, Nate seems to be able to hold on to that lead. And as we talked about, the longer this run goes on, the more the tires start to wear out, the less options you have when it comes to lane choice. So it just makes it that much more difficult to pass. They're really close in pace, and I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for Justin to get around him, but I definitely don't think this battle is going to end anytime soon. They're going to keep at it. 17 to go.
Yeah, 17 and make that 16 and a half laps to go as they flash down the back stretch here. Still the 971 leads. I was thinking while you were talking there, Andre, about that little scuffle that they had now probably almost 10 laps ago where Justin White got into the back of the 971. I mean, you'd have to think that Maurer went for a decent slide there. He caught it pretty quick, but nonetheless, I wonder if that might have been bad for those Goodyear tires, and maybe that will kind of be costly towards the end of the run. I just don't know. Tellier continuing to lose ground to the top two, now almost 0.6 of a second from that Chevy Silverado. That continues to, in fact, pair of Chevy Silverados that pave the way here at Chicagoland Speedway. Again, White looking down there below that apron there. It is the shortest way around the racetrack, but you usually do lose a little bit of speed in that transition region, such that for overall lap time, it's about equivalent to staying on the banked portion of the track, because we'll see if that number 2 elects to do it again. No, he's going to stay on the, well, at least they're both banked portion of the racetrack, but above the apron, let's just say that, as that 971 gets a good entry into turn number 1. In fact, gets a really good entry into turn number 1, and was able to keep it kind of tight up off the corner. That's always been one of the secrets to this racetrack, Andre. When I've come to this racetrack and I've run here, one of the big things is just to not let the truck scrub a whole lot of speed up off the corner. Don't always just drift it up off the corner. Don't always push it up there to the wall. Don't run it hard up off the corner. If you kind of keep it down there close to that white line, for whatever reason, I've always found that saves the tires here at this particular racetrack. And if you run it hard and you push it up to the wall, up off the corner, you're going to scrub the front tires off pretty quickly. So that's just something that I've noticed here at this racetrack, and I've just been watching the 971 of Nate Maurer. He's been doing that. He's been trying to keep that car a little bit lower on exit. Wonder if he has had similar sentiments to running this particular racetrack. Watch this. He just doesn't bring it up to the wall until really, really late. Like he's almost on the straightaway by the time he takes it up to the wall. So I don't know, but for right now, this is a great battle for the lead. Probably going to be one of the best battles we've had all season long in the closing stages of one of these races, considering we have been green flag, folks, since lap number 5.
Yeah, we've been green for over 100 laps, and these guys are only separated by tenths of a second. That is a testament to just how competitive these guys are in this league, how close everybody is. And I tell you, I still couldn't make any predictions about the way this is going to end. Justin White has been giving it his all. He definitely has been trying to make this pass, but it's just tough. It seems like the leader gets the clean air, and they have a bit of an advantage in that. And that's an advantage that is hard to conquer. It's hard to overcome that if you're the chasing truck. But something I'm wondering about Justin White, as we are now at 10 to go. This is as close to a win as Justin has been all year long. If he has the opportunity, does he use the bumper? What does he do to try and claim a win here at Chicagoland? Now, he got into the wall coming out of that corner. Definitely don't want to be doing that. You want to take care of that truck. If you want to get to the end, you got to take care of that Chevrolet. But I don't know. Even with getting into the wall, he's not falling that far back. He's still right there. What is he willing to do?
Well, the thing about Justin White, I can very much speak for Justin White and his competitiveness, but fair competitiveness. He's a very fair driver. I would be absolutely shocked if that number 2 machine kind of rubbed the 971 here late for the win. I just think that Justin White, he's got a lot behind him in terms of good qualities, not only as an administrator here in the National Sim Racing Association, but as a person. Every interaction I've ever had with Justin White has been a very, very positive and down-to-earth situation. I think he understands it's just a game, but I know he wants to get to victory lane, but there's nothing better than getting to victory lane with a nice, clean, solid pass right before the checkered flag. But you can tell Maurer is really slinging it out there right now. In fact, right now, I would say Maurer has got about as big as the lead as we've seen over the last 15 laps or so. Maybe able to find a little bit extra in the tank, as he might have got a little bit loose there, though, off of turn 2.
Well, I'm not sure if he got loose or if he was just trying to break the draft and keep Justin from slipstreaming back up to him. Maybe a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But, you're right. I've never really seen Justin White race too aggressively. I've never really seen him put the bumper to somebody. All I can tell you is I would. If it's coming down to it, the checkered flag is in the air, and I have a chance to maybe move somebody up the track, and I can do it, in a way that doesn't necessarily wreck them, just, rattles their cage, so to speak, I would definitely take the opportunity. But we'll see. Like you said, Justin's a clean driver, and he likes to do things the right way. So we'll have an interesting finish for sure. Is the 971 does pull away just a little bit. May have done a better job taking care of those tires. And again, he had the advantage. He was able to set the pace and run where he was comfortable running, whereas Justin White was really pushing that truck, trying to keep up with that 971, using up his equipment. So I don't know. I do know that the gap is fluctuating through 3 and 4. Nate was definitely faster, but through there, 1 and 2 onto the back straightaway, Justin caught up again. He closed that gap that he lost through 3 and 4. So I don't know if maybe Justin's just been hanging back, trying to let his tires cool down, and he's going to make a run at it in these closing laps as we are hitting lap 131 out of 134. But he is closing back in.
Yeah, starting to reel back in. Maybe he decided to cool off the tires for another attempt here late, as we're down to just less than 6 miles to go. It will be 4.5 miles to go this time by as they go across the start-finish line, working their way through turn number 3 and 4. One thing to just be mindful of, clean air on the nose of that 971. I wonder how much the number 2 of Justin White is struggling with that dirty air. We saw earlier in the night Philip Scott go up an extra lane or two in the corner to gain ground. I just wonder if the number 2 of Justin White starting to falter here. He's now almost 0.3 of a second back. You got to try a different line. You got to try something a little bit different here, because it doesn't seem to be enough as we're coming to just 2 laps to go here at Chicagoland.
And that last time around, Justin was way down on the apron, trying to get every little bit out of this track that he could. He actually clipped the apron, lost a little bit of time doing it. It is going to be a lap and a half to go when they get to the back straightaway here, and the gap is about a truck length and a half. It's going to take a strong lunge and a good set of corners for the number 2 to be able to challenge for it. I think Nate's put himself in a pretty comfortable position, at least relatively, if you want to call it that. Coming through 3 and 4 towards the white flag. Justin White gets a good run out of the corner. Again, closes in just a little bit. But as they reach the line for the white flag, it may not be enough. 2 more sets of corners. Justin White takes a bit of a later entry. He arcs it down a little bit lower, clips the apron. He's going to slide back up. He's got to watch this outside wall. He keeps it off the wall, but he had to lift. And that may have been enough for Nate Maurer to hold him off for just 2 more corners through 3 and 4 for the final time. Justin White makes another late entrance. He has a lot of speed, and he closes the gap, but time is not on his side, and it is going to be Nate Maurer in the 971 winning at Chicagoland.
Yeah, that number 97, we can already tell he's one happy driver, as I think celebration starting a little bit early. Winner of the Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Bar 200 here on 3 Wide TV. As great job there, mate. Nate. A really, really strong run. I'm not sure why it's getting a little bit choppy here on the broadcast, but hopefully no significant issues there. The first time I've seen that, but checkered flag has fallen here at the beautiful Chicagoland Speedway for burnout time here, Andre. On the front stretch, well, you know what, Nate Maurer, not sure he's going to do burnouts here on the front stretch. He's taking it all the way down there to turn number 1. There we go. There's the half of a burnout into the grass, SpongeBob SquarePants on the helmet. How about that? Nate Maurer going to victory lane here tonight.
Yeah, I don't know about that burnout. We might need to practice that a little bit there, Nate. But who needs a good burnout when you had a good race for sure? Just a phenomenal run, and that pit stop was so crucial. It got him out in front of the number 2, and it just seems like clean air was definitely king. When Justin White had the clean air, it was really difficult for Nate to get around him, and then when Nate had that clean air and the tables were turned, well, it was just as difficult for Justin to try to make that pass. So out of Lancaster, PA, Nate Maurer takes the win for the Bonnie and Clyde's Bar and Grill 200. And man, there we go. Those are some better burnouts there, Nate. There you go.
Nate Maurer going do some nose-to-nose burnouts with the number 2 of Justin White here on the front stretch. So great job for both of those drivers. And what a great race here tonight. Because, Andre, we did 200 miles. All but 7.5 of those were pretty much under green flag condition. And still, just a few hundredths of a second separating these top two. I mean, just think about that. It's wild when you have these long races, and it's just a very small fraction of a second separating first and second. It always boggles my mind when that happens.
Yeah, sometimes as a spectator, you see these races with a relatively small field, and you just kind of expect a bit of a snooze fest. You don't think a whole lot's going to happen, and then leave it to these guys to put on a pretty good show regardless. They didn't need a big field. They didn't need crazy accidents or wrecks or anything like that. They just went out there and they just put a straight-up clean race on the board. Very close, very competitive. Made it a blast to watch, and it's Chicagoland. That's why you got to love this place. It really is one of those tracks where it doesn't matter what car you bring here, it doesn't matter how many drivers you bring here, it's going to be a fun race, and that's exactly what that was.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see if we can get tonight's third-place finisher, Mike Floppy Tellier, here into the 3-wide TV booth. Mike, you got a copy?
I do.
Well, it was definitely a good race for the Hello Kitty Toyota Tundra. Coming up a couple of spots short. He had the short run pace again, but long run pace not on your side. And there was, of course, that one pit stop where you slid through your pit box. All in all, though, a good night. Walk us through it.
Yeah, you hit it perfectly there, Peter. I was good on the short run. I mean, without that issue on pit road, I would have been there. And then, I don't know, there was like 20 laps left, and Justin got into the back of Nate, and I could have went around him on the high side, but I didn't know if there was going to be like Nate going back up the track and a big wreck type thing. So I just got out of it and hoped they burnt up their tires, but I pit before them. So yeah, it was a great race. I'm kind of disappointed, but not really, because I'm only here part-time, so I'll take P3 for showing up every once in a while.
Well, I know this is one of my favorite racetracks to run, just because it is a speedway, but there's strategy involved, and it's still very racy. Did you have a lot of fun out there on the racetrack tonight?
Oh, I did. These guys put on a great show every week, and you guys do a great job broadcasting, so I'm just glad I get to come and race, even if there was a small field. Me and Nate there door banging a little bit, racing Phillip there in the first stint, holding on to the lead before the pit cycle. Like, it's great racing here. I'm just, like I said, I'm glad they let me show up and run and try and steal one here and there.
Well, next week is Charlotte Motor Speedway, another 1.5 miles. Mike, do you think we'll see you this time next week, or maybe not?
Well, it's Thanksgiving weekend next weekend up here in Canadaland, so I'll have my kids. So there's a chance, but maybe not at the same time. Just depends on how things go.
All right. Well, we'll see if you can steal one again next week, or at least steal another one by the end of the season here, Mike, because we only have 4 rounds left after tonight's conclusion. But best of luck there, bud. Before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Yeah, Justin, NSRA, you guys, 3Y TV, Sky Motorsports for letting me be a part of their team, the TNR guys for letting me harass them while we race. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, have a good Thanksgiving up there in Canadaland. Make sure you stock up on all of the gravy, poutine, and all of that good stuff there, Mike. But we'll talk to you again here soon on the channel, I'm sure.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right. That's going to do it with tonight's third-place finisher, Mike Floppy Tellier. But I think that we have tonight's runner-up, Justin White. Here, Andre, I think you caught up with him.
Justin White, you got a copy?
Yes, sir. Got you loud and clear.
Well, Mr. White, you put on a show for us out there. Great battle for the last half of that race, just lap after lap with Nate Maurer. For a while, you had the advantage. The final pit sequence kind of worked its way through, and then you found yourself bumper to bumper with him again. Tell me a little bit about your race.
Yeah, with the way that we got the schedule and tire sets, I knew we were going to have just enough to get to the end and have a few laps left over. It's just way the truck series works. In real life you only get 4 sets total, including the ones when you start on the truck. So I knew that I was going to have to run it all the way out, no matter what kind of cautions we got. I was going to have to run the fuel all the way out that I had in the truck to even have a chance for the long run speed to kind of kick over. I got a little worried there at the start of the first of the race when Mike and Doug and Nate and Philip all took off and got I think almost an 8-second gap lead on me. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be a long night for me. But then, there towards the end of the run, it just all of a sudden started clicking. I don't know. I just started catching them really, really quick. And I think I closed it in within a second before we hit that first cycle of pit stops. And at that point, I knew that as long as I kept my long run speed, I would be there at the end. And that second sequence worked out. When Nate pitted with me, I tried to call it out as late as possible, trying to trip him up. But he's the Kyle Busch of iRacing when it comes getting on and off pit road. So he beat me off pit road. He's taught me a ton about how to get off, on and off pit road as quick as possible. I've picked up so much speed just by emulating what he does. So once he got out in front of me, I knew it was either I was going to have to put the bumper to him or slide him up the track, or hopefully the long run speed would kick in. And I did put the bumper to him, at that point, not on purpose. I was hoping to set him up there the last lap, kind of double arc the first corner, 1 and 2, apex it, pull it beside him on the backstretch, and then just sink it off down there to 1 or down in 3, and hopefully it stuck. But I got the apron instead, so here we are at P2.
Now, going back to that battle with you trying to run him down and trying to do anything you could to get around him there, what was the difference in the handling from being in clean air out front to being the following truck? Was there a huge difference there?
It was noticeable. As the run went, you could tell your truck was getting tighter, not having clean air. When I was out front, I could hold that bottom and sink it right down to it every lap and not have an issue. Once you got out in dirty air, that's why I kept diving it to the apron, because I got a little bit of clean air down there. Of course, you're saving a lot of time too, but especially when nobody's around me. So I was doing that to get a little bit of clean air on the nose, and then trying to find any little bit of clean air he would give me to help set that nose a little bit better. But it definitely got tighter as the run went.
Absolutely. Now next week we're headed to Charlotte Motor Speedway. How you feel about a little bit more mile and a half racing?
Oh, I love Charlotte Motor Speedway. Love it. Love mile and a half racetracks. Chicagoland, I probably have more wins here than in officials and any other, in the trucks. And Charlotte's going to be next on that list. Somebody taught me long ago how to drive that track and won. And once I figured it out, 3 and 4 all just come natural. So now, it's going to be fun. Tire saving's still key there at Charlotte. You can't just run off and take off, because 3 and 4 has got a little bit of a extra little, a little tighter turn into it. So if you don't hold that bottom, you're going to burn your stuff up. And that's where long run speed's going to come into play.
I'm right there with you. I'm a big mile and a half guy myself. Well, anyways, Justin, before we let you go, is there any shout outs that you'd like to make?
Absolutely. Peter and yourself for putting on the broadcast. I know we had a few guys out here tonight. I got to put my gloves back on and get back out on the recruitment trail. I kind of don't want to recruit too many new guys at the end of the season, but appreciate you guys giving your time for that. Thanks to Nate and Doug, Simbox, those guys. Doug's taking care of me with the Simbox. Nate's he's making me a better race car driver in general, because Nate's just fast, and trying to emulate him. And then my other teammates, Adam and Tom, appreciate those guys, us passing information back and forth. And then of course appreciate Grinds for helping me kick chewing tobacco. I've been tobacco free for over 10 years now when it comes to chewing tobacco, and they help me kick it. Of course they're on the truck. So if you guys, if you're looking to kick tobacco, right there, that's the one place to go. Getgrinds.com.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for your time, and maybe we'll be talking to you again next week.
Absolutely. Oh, and shout out to Stay Tuned Sports. Forgot about them. Thank you for the primary sponsor. I knew I'd forget somebody.
We all do.
Thank you, Jimbo.
All right. See you next week, Justin.
Yep. See you.
All right. Now it is time for Peter Short to make that short little jog down to Victory Lane to have a word with our race winner.
Yeah, I'm down here with the 971 machine of Nate Maurer. one heck of a race here tonight, and one heck of a drive out of the 971. Getting that launch off of pit road to get the win. Nate, talk us about this race, because the beginning of the night, you started in third. You weren't the early leader, but you were always there throughout the entire race, and you were there where it mattered most, at the checkered flag. Really strong run for you.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Mike Tellier, man. I don't know what he's done the past couple of weeks, but he's had a rocket ship. Yeah, he's just got to save a little bit more tire, and he'll be able to battle there at the end with everybody. But congrats to him on his P3. But yeah, that launch, well, the guy that finished second, my teammate, which I hate racing my teammate for the win. Any teammate, I hate racing teammates for a win. He always says there's nobody better. He calls me the Kyle Busch of pit stops on iRacing. But yeah, I knew my only chance to beat him tonight was on and off pit road, and luckily we beat him off a little bit. I got a good launch out of my box, and yeah, so I saved a little bit of tire there until I knew he was going to get to me, and saved a little bit too much going into turn one. He got to the back end of me, but we gathered it up. Thanks to Justin for giving me a little bit of room for gathering up. Thanks to Mike too, and yeah, we're off. We're off to the finish line.
Well, definitely kind of a fun race, and it was fun to check in on the drivers that were catching you, the drivers you were catching, and it always seemed like early on in the run, the field would spread out, and then as we got close to pit stops, the field just kind of came back together. How fun was that to manage that throughout the race?
It was very fun. I mean, it was so hard not to run like Mike Tellier. I mean, it was obvious how fast he was for the first like 15 laps of a run, and I wanted to so badly just keep up with him, and you just got to keep pacing yourself between the guy in front of you and the guy behind you. And I knew that Justin White didn't start. I don't think he really started up towards the front, but I knew after like the first fuel run he was coming. I knew he was probably going to be the truck to beat here at the end of the race tonight. So I just kind of started pacing myself with him, and just kept reminding all my teammates that Mike Tellier just burned his tires up too quick. We're going to get back to him, and yeah, that was fun. That was fun. I had some good couple laps battle there with Mike Tellier. I didn't think I was able to get around him, and coughed up too much time to Justin and Philip Scott. But yeah, it was just a fun race all around.
Yeah, definitely a fun race here tonight in the Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Sports Bar 200. But Nate, next week we got Charlotte Motor Speedway. What are your thoughts about that mile and a half?
Well, statistically, this is probably my worst track. I never thought I didn't think I was gonna win here tonight, but I feel like I'm pretty decent at Bristol. Not Bristol. I'm looking at Bristol right now. Feeling pretty decent about Charlotte, so hopefully everyone's power's back on. Thoughts and prayers with everybody down in Florida. I know the Zora brothers, they're out of power right now. I'm sure there's some other people that are out of power right now, couldn't make it. Hopefully, I just looked at the points, man. We made a big jump this week, so hopefully we can keep pushing forward here in these points. But it's just fun out here racing everybody week in, week out.
Yeah, of course, 4 races left this season here in the National Sim Racing Association before we crown a series champion. But Nate, before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
I got to give a shout out to all my teammates. Doug has been, especially Doug Neal. Doug Neal's been running really good here the last couple of weeks. He's usually one of the guys that burns up his tires quick in a run, but he's been doing good, finished good. Would have finished good last night and finished well here tonight. Shout out to Justin, another teammate. Tom Lester, and poor old Adam, boy. I don't know what kind of strategy he was working, but it wasn't going to work. But shout out to Stay Tuned Sports, you up in the booth there, Peter, and all the other sponsors in here, all the broadcasters, all the viewers watching the broadcast, Scott Tompkins, and all my buddies at work. Somehow they all found out that I do iRacing. Some guy found me on YouTube. Now it's spread around like wildfire. Kind of embarrassing, but now they know my hobby. So we got some more viewers in here now every night.
Hey, that's good for us up here on 3 Wide TV, Nate. So we appreciate
yeah, gotta give a shout out to my superintendent Chris. He told me that I gotta give him a shout out, and I told him if I win this race, all the higher ups at the job site, they all get golf carts. And I told him if I win this race, I get his golf cart Monday. So you better cough the keys up Monday morning, Chris.
Oh man, that's good. Man, good. That is incentive to win if I've ever heard one. So that's good for you. But hey, Nate, congratulations on getting the win here tonight, and we'll see you again next week at Charlotte.
Thanks for coming out here and broadcasting this, man. Have a good weekend.
All right. Well, a little bit of a prize there for Nate Maurer, and hopefully he enjoys the banter in the office that he's going to get here in the upcoming weeks from his coworkers watching 3 Wide TV. But definitely a lot of fun here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now, here's the interesting thing. We've again gone a little bit long, and we still can bring up the race results. That's the good news. Andre, why don't you take it away with tonight's final race results from not Charlotte, that's next week, from Chicagoland, the other C.
The other one. 10-4, good buddy. We got Nate Maurer in the lead, winning himself a golf cart, apparently. Justin White, P2, with a very impressive run and a late race charge to try to make that pass, just coming up a little bit short. Mike Tellier out of Canadaland, he's going to bring it home on the podium again. Seems like every time he shows up, he's fast. It doesn't really matter what track or, what kind of racing style it is. He's always fast, so no surprise there for him on the podium. Doug Neal in 4th place. He had an up-and-down race, but a solid points day for that 77. Philip Scott, P5. Tom Lester rallies back from that lap 1 incident to finish in 6th, top half of the field. John Flamian, P7. Adam Newton with that kind of weird strategy that our race winner mentioned. And got to say, Adam, you let me down, man. I was so excited to see where that strategy went. I thought you knew something that we didn't, and I respect it. I'm just a little disappointed. Jason Shu, P9. Vinny Valvano, funnest name to say in the league. I'm sorry, Jimbo. I know I said Uncle Jimbo was the funnest name to say in the league. Vinny Valvano, amazing name to say. He finishes in the top 10. Tristan Maher with a wheel disconnect, a real-life equipment failure, making sim racing a little bit too realistic, brings it home in P11.
And let's talk about a little bit before we go. Of course, there's 4 races left, but let's talk about how tonight's race results have impacted the standings, as the race results have already been uploaded. I've also included a link in the description of the video. If you want to check out the point standings on your own time, you can go click on that link. But Philip Scott has taken the points lead, gained 1 spot over Tristan Maher, now has a 3-point advantage over tonight's race winner. Nate Maurer jumps all the way up from 5th to 2nd, 3 points behind Philip Scott. Justin White, 6 points off of Philip Scott. And then the points leader coming into tonight, Tristan Maher, drops 3 spots. Adam Newton dropping 2 spots. Maher finds himself 11 points off of Scott, and Newton finds himself 28 markers off of Philip Scott. Then you have Doug Neal, 81 markers back. Valvano, 126 markers back. And then I think Julian Tesoro, who is at this point the last driver who has even a remote chance, in my opinion, unfortunately missing tonight's race with a provisional. He's 190 markers behind Philip Scott, but 6 points separating the top 3 going into the 4th round after these race results that you see on your screen. Definitely going to be a lot to play for here on 3 Wide TV over the next several weeks, and going to be a lot of fun to run into the series championship. But got to give a shout out to our other series sponsors here tonight. Didn't get to mention our good friends over BearStreetJournal.com. Make sure to check them out. Brookstone Animal Hospital, BrookstoneVet.com. No lucky dogs here tonight given away by them. Hopefully we get some next week. Taz Racing Customs, Facebook.com/Taz Racing Customs for custom diecast. Eclipse Photography, Simbox. If you have a sim rig, you need a button box, go check out our friends over at Facebook.com/SimboxPC. Simbox, very affordable button boxes made right here in the great USA. And of course, JNR Craftworks, as we move in on the holiday season. JNR Craftworks have some really, really cool customizable stuff that you can order from their website. So go check out jnrcraftworks.com, as well as MaxGrafix.co. We mentioned them a little bit earlier in the night with their Terry Labonte throwback scheme that's going to be on the real-life NASCAR racetrack in the Xfinity Series. Terry Labonte was an Alka-Seltzer driver back in the 90s, and they're bringing back that paint scheme. And MaxGrafix.co had their hand in bringing back that scheme, so pretty cool job that they put together, and it's sweet looking right, so keep an eye on that if you're watching the Talladega Xfinity race. But and of course, Stay Tuned Sports and their podcast for being our series sponsor. And of course, Bonnie and Clyde's Grill and Sports Bar for being tonight's particular race sponsor. But Andre, a lot of fun here tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun at Charlotte Motor Speedway next week. If this race has any indication of what we're going to see next week, again, down to the wire type action here on 3Wide TV.
Yeah, we've got a handful of races left and a lot of drivers that are within just a few points of one another. This season could go any number of ways, and it really is going to be dramatic. I think that's the only way to describe it. It's going to be a dramatic finish to the season any way you cut it. And Charlotte is going to put on one heck of a show. It's a very narrow 1.5 miles. It's very steeply banked, and 3 and 4 is a pretty tight corner there as well. So it's a very tough track to conquer in these trucks, and I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be right here on 3Wide TV.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that is going to do it for us here tonight. Stay safe and all of that good stuff. We'll see you again next week for more Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series action. See ya!